Hey, hi, hello, everyone. My name is Naishir Alim Jules, and I'm the Deputy Director for the USAID Donald M. Payne International Development Fellowship Program, which is administered by Howard University, but sponsored by the U.S. Agency for International Development. I'd like to first thank you all by joining us this afternoon for our session. We hope that you find the presentation and the following conversation very informative for the Open 2024 Payne Fellowship Cycle. With that, let's go ahead and begin. So let's start with a little history of the Payne Fellowship Program. The Payne International Development Fellowship Program was founded in 2012 in honor of the late Representative Donald M. Payne Sr., who is Democrat from the 10th District in New Jersey, which is actually Newark. I'm from New Jersey. So Representative Payne was the first Black American elected to the U.S. Congress from New Jersey. He was elected in November 1988 and served until his death in 2012. He was a senior member on the House Committee on Foreign Affairs and a ranking member of the Subcommittee on Africa, Global Health, and Human Rights, and a member of the Subcommittee on the Western Hemisphere. The fellowship selected its first cohort of fellows in 2013. 3 fellows were only selected at that time. We've now expanded our selection up to 30 fellows per year. As of March 23, 119 Payne Fellows have been awarded the fellowship. Maybe I should use the clicker. So what exactly is the Payne Fellowship? Well, the Donald M. Payne International Development Graduate Fellowship Program, again, is administered by Howard University under a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Agency for International Aid, USAID. The fellowship seeks to recruit and select bright minds interested in a career in the USAID Foreign Service. USAID Foreign Service officers apply their technical knowledge, their program design and management, and evaluation expertise to promote and demonstrate democratic values abroad and advance a free, peaceful, and prosperous world. USAID Foreign Service officers work on the front lines of some of the most pressing global challenges of our times, including environmental degradation, education and health crisis, conflict and violent extremism, peace and security, and as well as humanitarian emergencies. Here are some of the USAID backstops. So these are technically the career tracks in which our fellows enter into the USAID Foreign Service. There's different backstops for those interested in, again, private enterprise, those interested in engineering. There's a career track for you, public health and nutrition services, education officers, crisis stabilization and governance, contracting, environmental and natural resources, executive officers for those who are interested in pursuing MBAs. The list goes on and on here in regards to the wide breadth of different career backstops that you can enter upon entering USAID's Foreign Service. So a little bit about the actual fellowship program. The benefits include an award of up to $104,000 over 2 years for tuition, mandatory fees, living expenses, and summer internships. That breakdown works out to be up to $24,000 per year for tuition and fees. Please note that some of our graduate schools provide additional supplemental financial assistance. We do have a list, the graduate program partner list of some 30 plus graduate programs who have said, if Payne Fellows are admitted here, we will provide additional supplemental funding in this amount for the fellow if they attend our program. Each fellow receives their $18,000 living stipend per year, so each year, and that's issued directly to the fellow to help support with any costs so they can really focus on their studies during that time. We also award up to $10,000 per year for 2 summer internships, and that includes housing and round-trip transportation. The first internship is offered before the first year of graduate school, and that is a congressional internship in Washington, D.C. Again, we cover round-trip transportation, housing in DC for the fellows, and provide them a stipend there as well to support them through that summer. The second internship offered is a 10-week overseas internship at a USAID mission abroad. Again, round-trip transportation. We also cover emergency medical insurance because you will be overseas. Housing is covered as well by the mission, and they get a lot of substantive work in their backstop area there during that 10-week experience before returning for their second year of graduate school. Our application, it focuses on your interest in working for USAID. You should have an interest in development, the type of work, again, which is the focus of the agency. And it should also highlight your preparedness for graduate studies, graduate school. Are you ready to pursue your graduate degree? This year, for the 2024 selection process, the open cycle, our application has it's been open since July 20th, 2023, and it will close on Thursday, October 26th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's very important to note there, especially considering we're in Mountain Standard Time right now. So be sure that if you're interested in applying, that you put that in your calendar. The selection of finalists will happen in early December. So that's when our selection panel will select 60 finalists to be invited to interview for the virtual final round interviews, which will take place in January 2024 for the 2024 cycle. That'll be when we do the interviews. The notifications will also go out at the end of the month with the decisions there. So by the end of January, all of those who were interviewed will know whether or not they received the fellowship opportunity. Then our fellows come to Howard University in May 2024 to start their 1-week orientation. And then after that 1-week orientation is when they start their 9-week congressional internship on the Hill prior to starting their first year of graduate school. So learned a little bit about the benefits there. Let's talk about how to apply. What exactly do you need to apply for this fellowship opportunity? First, you should be and must be a US citizen by the application deadline, and not get tired of me saying this, which is Thursday, October 26th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All applicants should have a 3.2 cumulative GPA by the application deadline. And you should also be planning to enroll in a 2-year graduate program in fall 2024 at a US-based institution. Again, we are using federal funds here, sponsored by a US agency. So the funds must be applied to a full-time 2-year, traditionally in person. I say this often. In light of COVID, some programs are traditionally in person, but may have a hybrid component to a couple of their courses. In order to be applicable for the 2024 cycle. Some of the acceptable majors for fellows include, but are not limited to, so please know this, everything from international affairs, humanitarianism, economics, history, political science, public administration, communications, public policy, security, business administration, foreign languages, agriculture, environmental studies, urban planning, social work, regional studies. I can go on. There's a whole host of things that would be applicable to USAID's Foreign Service. What you'll also need is 2 letters of recommendation. If you're a current student, 1 letter should be from a former professor or faculty member, and another, or faculty member, excuse me, and another from a professional recommender. So think of if you've done community service or volunteering work outside of the university or even on campus, and you had a supervisor there, someone there to speak to that piece. If you are a alumni, right, and you're several years removed from your undergraduate experience, and you cannot get in contact with faculty, et cetera, no worries there. We ask that you please provide, again, 2 professional references who can really speak to 2 things. 1, your interest in a career in USAID, and 2, your preparedness and your readiness for graduate school. It's a graduate fellowship opportunity. Should also be ready to include updated resume, official transcripts from all colleges and universities attended is required. And then we do require 2 statements. The first is a personal statement in 600 words or less, again, detailing the reasons for applying, your interest in foreign affairs, and a commitment to a career in the USAID's Foreign Service. What's important to note here, if you get the fellowship, you get the job. So please be sure to express your interest in the job in the personal statement as well. And the second statement, in 400 words or less, is for the applicant a space for you to indicate your need for financial assistance in order to continue or to start to continue into graduate studies. There you should convey what the numbers can't tell. And what exactly does that mean? So our application also requires submission of the FAFSA student aid report. On there, of course, it'd just be a list of your net worth, this, that, what you have, which your family may not have. We require that the student aid report include your EFC. I believe they changed that acronym for this year. I forgot the specific acronym. I could circle back around there, but the EFC traditionally was that piece, which is the expected family contribution. There should be a number associated on that student aid report there. We will require you to upload the student aid report. So one of the required sections, this is a need-based fellowship. So you should have a financial need for this fellowship to pursue graduate studies. So that's why we require the numbers there. So again, use the statement of financial need, that space, to truly convey what your numbers on your student aid report cannot tell. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about these statements. Can't just leave you all hanging like, okay, yeah, it's 600 words personal statement, and then what happens next, right? So here you want to be sure to list your motivations. Why do you want to be a development foreign service officer with the U.S. Agency for International Development? What are your preparations? What have you done that would make you successful? What do you bring, or what could you bring to the new cohort of Payne Fellows for the 2024 cycle? Examples of some relevant experiences. Again, these are just examples, not saying that you have to have these, but just for reference here, of course, international studies, living, work, or travel, international or multicultural experience in the US. We understand that the pandemic, again, I will always hark back to COVID, took about 2 to 3 years of that real global engagement away from students and things. So any work, be it virtual, right, or in person in your own local community or on campus, et cetera, would be applicable here in that capacity as well. Experiences with overcoming obstacles that show resilience and resourcefulness. Working with various cultural or socioeconomic groups, be it in your immediate community or other communities. Public service experience, again, either work, internship, community, volunteer, and then other internship, community, volunteer work experiences, be it government, local, NGOs, other service organizations, again, fraternities, social clubs, organizations, et cetera, and or business enterprises. Of course, your academic or other learning experiences, including any research that you've done. It's a nationally competitive fellowship opportunity, so be sure to brag about yourself. We want to know why you, right? This would be the place to clearly mention that in the personal statement. And then lastly, some things for an example to include in the personal statement: leadership experience, be it academic, work, or a volunteer setting. That financial statement there, remember, it's 400 words or less. What's important here is that you discuss relevant issues that are not obvious from the numbers reported on the student aid report. Decisions, so consider decisions other than loans to ease the cost of undergraduate studies, such as the choice of universities, going to a state school versus a private institution out of state, right? Working during school, having to assume federal work study or some other exterior employment, et cetera, to help subsidize the cost of your undergraduate education. This also includes scholarships, right? So we understand that in some cases, individuals, regardless of them going to a state school or a small school, community college first, et cetera, still probably wouldn't have had the means to pay for their undergraduate education without the support of scholarships, be them merit or otherwise, right? There's an example of that. You want to be sure to provide background and context on your family, or your socioeconomic background, and your challenges there, if those are applicable to you. What you want to be clear, though, is that, again, you only have 400 words, right? Shorter than the personal statement. It's 500 words is typically a page if you double space it, right? So you don't have that. You have less than a page to express this. What you want to be sure about is making sure that the statement of financial need isn't a woe is me scenario, but you are clear and you are concise in the communicating of, hey, this is my need for this piece. Communicate issues that explain why the reported income, again, telling what the numbers can't. On the FAFSA student aid report is representative of your current situation. So this would be changes in your income, your job status since the last tax year, the costs or unavailability of funding for graduate school, and independence from family. 9 times out of 10, your parents are probably not going to sponsor you for for your graduate studies. It's expensive. So communicate that, being clear about that, right? And then also some things to think about: graduate school related issues, the estimated costs. Again, I can't stress that enough. You not working, 9 times out of 10, graduate programs tend to be full-time, in person. They're intensive. So there may be little opportunity to actually have work experience off of campus, et cetera. And again, lack of family support there to assist with that piece, if that's applicable for you. Some other things on preparing a competitive application, just some tips here. First thing you want to be sure to do is review the application requirements to ensure your eligibility and to prepare to apply. Again, eligibility, 3.2 cumulative GPA, US citizenship by the application deadline, which is Thursday, October 26th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Save it in your calendars. And be looking to start a graduate program in fall 2024 in an area of relevance to USAID Foreign Service. So again, whole world of opportunities there regarding ag, environment, econ, social work, public health, governance, crisis stabilization, regional studies. The list goes on. There's a whole gamut of opportunities there that you can study that would be applicable to the USAID Foreign Service. One of the things that you should do, it's not listed here, but I'm going to tell you, is to become familiar with the different career backstops, because ultimately, whatever your graduate degree you choose to pursue in graduate school, it will have to funnel in, it has to be applicable competencies for the career backstop that you intend on going into the USAID Foreign Service. So for example, if you intend on being an agriculture officer, well, we want to have you taking business classes, you're getting your MBA, and then trying to become a agricultural officer with USAID. That matchup doesn't make sense there. Now, where it would make sense is if you want to get your MBA and you want to be a program officer, an executive officer, a contracting officer, if you have the years of experience, one of the more applicable funnels for that degree program there. Next, explain in a statement of interest, again, your motivations for applying, and identify your background, experiences, and skills for being to be a successful Foreign Service Officer, FSO. Demonstrate your academic ability and your rigor in studies. Can't harp on this enough. Brag about yourself. Nationally competitive fellowship opportunity here. You will not be the only student or individual looking at this opportunity, but not to scare you off, apply still, but be sure to brag about yourself. Tell your story and your narrative through your academic courses if you've done some research assistantship with faculty, or even if you presented in a research consortium type of event or program there. Obtain strong letters of recommendation. Cannot express this enough. Please be sure that for whomever you get to write your letters of recommendation, that it is not a title grab. And what I mean by that is you're not saying, oh, the dean of this school, I want them to write my letter of recommendation because they're dean such and such. But this dean, who probably you may be familiar with you or may not at all, can't speak to who you are as the applicant or the student, right? They don't know why you're interested in a USAID career, or what your passions are or interests is for graduate school. You don't want them to just write, oh, this person's a great person. They made dean lists every semester since being here at University of New Mexico, and I recommend them for this fellowship program. Well, that's not very substantive compared to probably the other competitive applications that we'll be getting from individuals who are speaking to their candidates' skill sets, et cetera, right? So be sure that you obtain strong letters of recommendation. You want to, again, demonstrate the need for financial assistance for graduate school. The statement of financial need is a required section, just like the personal statement section, just like the letters of recommendation. So be sure that you're thinking about that narrative there, being clear, being concise, conveying what the numbers cannot show. Cannot stress that enough. You don't want to echo what, your student aid report, if it says your EFC is 0, meaning your family cannot contribute towards your graduate education, you don't want to say, well, my EFC is 0. They're not going to help. Compared to the other competitive fellowship applications that we most likely will receive, they're going to be expressing exactly why they need this support, why these numbers, don't align. Or in some cases, if the EFC says, 20,000, if your family might be well off, but you are not, your parents' money. It was the Cosby Show. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but in the Cosby Show, they said, me and your mother are rich. You guys as the children are poor. So think of it that way. If your family is not going to be participating in assisting you with that support. Again, brag about yourself. You want to include all relevant extracurricular, community, volunteer experiences, and highlight your leadership roles. List all relevant college, university, or professional honors and awards. And lastly, cannot stress this enough, proofread all aspects of your application carefully and submit all application materials on time by the application deadline, which is Thursday, October 26th by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, heard about the fellowship, learned what you need to apply to the fellowship, the award, the obligations, a little bit about the history. Let's talk about the fellowship timeline. So what does this experience actually look like over these 2 years? So for the 2024 cycle, May 2024 to August 2024, we will fly again our Payne Fellows to Howard University, DC area for a 1-week orientation. And then following that 1-week orientation, they will immediately begin their 9-week DC congressional internship experience. And we also do professional development during that summer as well. In August, I think this, yes, this is correct. Okay, August 2024, beginning then to May 2025, again, our fellows start your first year of graduate school. Go there, you study, you'll be amazing representatives of the Payne Fellowship Program, getting straight A's, I'm sure, of course, right? And knocking it out of the park. Then we will, in May 2025 to August 25, in between that first and second year of graduate school, is when you'll participate in your 10-week overseas internship at a USAID mission overseas. And again, each experience is different. It really will depend upon your backstop of choice. So the career track that you're choosing to go into the USAID Foreign Service in regards to what that individual overseas experience looks like. You will get substantive work. There'll be site visits, there'll be projects, et cetera. A whole new world out there for you to get that first touch, first look experience into, wow, a development foreign service officer. This is what that means. This is what that career is like. And again, please note that round trip transportation, housing is all covered there, and we will provide a stipend for that support through that 10-week experience. After that, our fellows come back to continental US, to their various areas, depending upon where their graduate programs are. Again, you do not have to go to Howard University for graduate school, of course not. You can take our funding to any US-based institution, so long as the program, again, is a 2-year full-time, traditionally in person, in an area of relevance to the USAID's Foreign Service. So our fellows will return, finish out their second year of graduate school, and then they'll enter USAID's Foreign Service. We actually just offboarded our 2021 fellows who were onboarding with USAID in June. So they're going through their USAID employees now and working through the ranks to receive their first mission posts, etc. So you'll start your life as a development foreign service officer. What's important to note about the fellowship program, again, earlier in the presentation, I said, if you get the fellowship, you get the job. It's true. The job comes with a 5-year service obligation. All of our fellows are obligated to serve in the USAID Foreign Service for 5 years after completing the graduate fellowship components, which would be, again, the 2-year piece for your graduate studies, the professional development, your internships there. So technically all in, bundled pretty and tight, 7 years commitment there. 2 years for your graduate degree, plus professional development, all of that during that 2-year time. And then you start your 5-year career with USAID Foreign Service. The induction, there we go. So then again, Payne Fellows are inducted to USAID Foreign Service to commence the career in the Foreign Service there. And there we have. So I'll pause here for any questions, comments, perhaps.
Is each mission 2 years, or do the missions vary in time?
Are you talking about after? Okay, yes. So yes, USAID's Foreign Service is different than Department of State, where State Department would do 2-year posts.
Right.
USAID missions tend to be, their mission posts tend to be about 3 years.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when you're completing graduate studies, the second internship that you mentioned, can you choose that, or they give you?
Yes, that's a great question. So we collect, we're actually in the process of doing that for our recently admitted 2023 fellows. So we collect the fellows' resumes and cover letters, and in some cases their preferences in regards to like where they're thinking about, like, you know, interests, location-wise, et cetera. And then we provide that to our contacts, our colleagues at USAID. USAID does all of the overseas placements directly, mainly because it's at their missions, right? So they have to make sure that wherever we're sending the fellows is safe, first and foremost, right? Especially because they're not career employees yet. They can't, we can't send a fellow to a hardship location, if that makes sense, or a hardship location would be a location where there's might be added danger, or you know, there's a political unrest or something like that going on, et cetera. Yes, so they do the direct placements to ensure that where the fellow is going is that they'll still be having one substantive experience in their respective backstops, two, that the mission can host them comfortably. They have the mission provides housing, making sure that they're, you know, close to where they need to be for work, et cetera. And what's the third one? And the third one is what else? It was preferences, mission, housing, location. Oh, the work. Again, going back to the substantive work, making sure that there's something for you to do within your respective career backstop, be it ongoing project that you may have. All of our fellows, when they go overseas, they have supervisors who tend to be, again, in their backstop. So they're working with someone who will in the future be their colleague or future boss again. There, so they were really finding out that firsthand experience about, okay, this is what that type of work looks like. But to answer your question, yes, we collect the preferences, but there's no guarantee that based off of the preferences that we collect, that we'll be able to send you there due to one of those pieces. We want to make sure, again, the experience is meaningful, that it's safe, and that the mission can actually provide the accommodations that they're supposed to.
Do many students who go to that mission while they're a student end up working over that?
So yeah, so good question. So how the Foreign Service works, once they onboard into USAID, they'll go through an intensive type of training, Foreign Service Center, which pretty much does like the training for you. This is what you can expect, or this is the expectation for to be a diplomat, right? A foreign service officer. Expectations X, Y, and Z. They'll may undergo language training, et cetera, and a host of other courses there prior to receiving their first mission post. Now, their first mission post is assigned directly by USAID. There's no negotiation in that piece. The aid will send them to where is the most need for said backstop, at this point in time there. After they wrap up their first post, they are eligible to bid or, say, hey, I want to work, at this, if there's openings for my backstop at this location, this is what I'm applying to X, Y, and Z. So yes, but for the first post, it is assigned by USAID. And again, it's also dependent upon if the locale has, again, substantive work for said career backstop. So not all, some missions are really, really big and focused on public health and nutrition services, et cetera. So there's like an army of public health and nutrition officers in some locales. And there may not be but one or two executive officers. Those are the ones who are typically involved in the business aspect of it, right? The logistics business operations there. But whereas in other cases, there may be openings for, more variety of backstops depending upon the locale. So it really would ultimately depend upon the need and the type of programming that's actually going on at the time. But again, what's important to note is that they do get bidding preference after, again, that first post.
So if you're an undergrad right now in your final year and you haven't applied to a graduate program yet, you haven't necessarily committed to a certain school or even maybe a certain type of program yet, how would you encourage someone to apply?
Yeah, so first things first, you apply separately to graduate school from our fellowship. Of course, we cannot control the admissions processes of individual graduate programs. So start looking at if you're not sure about your graduate school opportunities or like what track you want to go into, or excuse me, what degree you're looking to pursue. But you know that, hey, you know what, I'm interested in graduate school and I know I can't afford it. So I know I need to apply to this fellowship program, apply to the fellowship program. Look at, again, USAID's different backstops. Match up your interests with like, okay, what do you in the long term want to be doing for your career, right? Then, so if it is public health, you're looking at MPHs, that can help, take you back like, oh, okay, well, I'm really interested in becoming a public health officer for USAID. What does that mean? What degree should I be studying here? It can be public health. It can be, I was not a health major. I was a classics major in school. So please forgive me. I don't know any other comparable degrees. I don't, so, but it could be another public health program or, something of the sorts there. So I would say definitely becoming familiar with the career backstops first and foremost with USAID to make sure that the programs that you may be considering or would want to consider, or even in cases you're not considering at all, but you want to be an executive officer, right? All right, well, I know that EX officers tend to business substantive or, might be, more administrative, right? So MPAs, MPPs, et cetera. You're looking at those types of programs. It can help narrow it down that way. What's also beautiful about our fellowship program is that we have a graduate program partner list of some 30 plus graduate schools that have agreed to offer additional supplemental funding and support for Payne fellows who are admitted to their programs. So we give this list to our finalists or anyone actually who asks. So we can give you that list and we advertise the offers of their respective graduate programs. And again, it's not saying that you have to go to any of these schools, but hey, if you are unsure about which graduate programs that you're applying to or what graduate school or program that you're going to apply to, you have narrowed down your interest in career in USAID Foreign Service, and you're looking at our list and you're saying, wow, well, the LBJ school is going to give me $10,000, if I go there for administration or business, governance, or hey, you know what? I'm thinking about going to University of New Mexico. We're not a partner yet, working on it. I would like to go back to University of New Mexico and study business there and pursue my MBA there, et cetera. And they're offering research assistantship with such and such, faculty, or a competitive stipend or something like that, to where you're getting additional funds outside of what we're offering to you. Use everything at your advantage. The goal of the fellowship is to make, again, the cost of graduate school more affordable for minority individuals who are looking for a career in the USAID's Foreign Service. So yeah, there's plethora. There's a multitude of different ways to actually look at it, dependent upon where you are. One of the things I will say is that the graduate programs deadline tend to be in early March, the traditional deadlines, because again, the early action, et cetera, et cetera. Our fellowship, again, you will know if you have this award, meaning if you're coming to any graduate program, regardless of if you applied or not, with substantial funding before February. So that's always, like, in some cases, individuals do wait until, receiving the notification that, yes, I've been awarded. All right, I got 24,000 each year towards tuition mandatory fees. This is great. Okay, now what programs am I going to look at? That's perfectly fine as well. And again, we do work with graduate programs with our fellows. So, for instance, if there's a program that you're looking at that may not even be on our list, but you're interested, like, hey, could they become a partner? Send it to us. I'll reach out to the school and tell them who and why great this fellowship is, and how if you get the fellowship, you get the job, which works phenomenally well for graduate programs, knowing that their students are employed immediately upon graduation. So tends to bode well and work in our favor there. But yes.
Quick question.
Yes.
Do you have on your website more like description to the
Yes.
steps?
Yes.
See someone doing psychology, going into stabilization and
governance, yes. Mm-hmm. We have descriptions on our website on the respective career backstops for USAID's Foreign Service. But if you really want to know exactly, our descriptions are more brief, straight to the point, like, hey, this is what they essentially do. Visit usaid.gov, and they have all, like, the full gambit of their career backstops and what type of work those backstop officers, which is those Foreign Service officers, those backstop officers, what they do.
So since you have legal officers on here, that couldn't be law school, right?
So unfortunately, law school typically takes about three-year program. We only cover a 2-year full-time, traditionally in person. The legal officers in USAID's Foreign Service, they tend to have extensive professional experience as well. So certain backstops, this is a great question, by the way, certain backstops require certain advanced, like, professional experience, for instance. So for contracting officers, they should have professional experience working prior to the fellowship with, like, in contracting X, Y, and Z grants, those type of agreements. And we'll work with the fellow. So if a fellow who does not have said legal, but is interested in that backstop, we'll work with them in our backstop coordinator to see, okay, is there a way for competencies in said graduate program to equate to said backstop here, and what that looks like. In some cases, we actually just had our first contracting officer fellow 2023. Again, they had experience working professionally and specifically in that type of area, and then are pursuing a degree in, what is the degree? It's not a degree in contracting, but it's a degree, I think it's like a policy or something like that, but it was applicable for said backstop. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Well, again, thank you all for sitting through this presentation. And again, be sure to, if you have any additional questions, comments, or concerns regarding your eligibility or the programs that you're looking at, our staff is readily available. We will be starting one-on-one sessions. So you can schedule 15-minute one-on-ones with our staff beginning in October. So you can visit our website, paynefellows@howard.edu for that piece. Oh, sorry, that's our email address, paynefellows.org for the piece regarding the one-on-one sessions. And you can send your questions to paynefellows@howard.edu. That's our general email box. And again, for those of you who have my cards, please email me directly and I have no problem in answering those questions there.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you guys.